What's up, Tailgaters? You're in the booth with Tailgate Nate today. Welcome to my channel and welcome to another week 4 preview and prediction video where today we're going to be looking at a Big 12 battle in Stillwater, Oklahoma. And how about the first Big 12 road test for Cam Rising, Kyle Whittingham, and the Utah Utes? They got to go up against the always entertaining Mike Gundy's Oklahoma State Cowboys. Friends, this is going to be such a fun matchup here from Stillwater. And I'll tell you everything you need to know about the Utes and Cowboys here in just a little bit. Again, this one, can't wait for it in Stillwater, and it might very well be the biggest coin flip game of the weekend. And again, of course, I'll tell you why here in a minute. But before we dive on into anything to do with this game, I got to thank you for all the love and support you have shown this channel and you have shown me in any way you can. If you want to help support the channel, I mean, hey, if you're as big of a college football nerd as I am, in my opinion, I think you should hit that subscribe button, ring the bell. You're going to want to know everything that is happening here on my channel, everything that I upload onto the channel. And again, if you love hearing people talk college football, this is the channel for you. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to watch this video, and please help support the channel in any other ways you can, like liking, commenting, or sharing, and anything else you can to help support the channel or support me. If you want to support me outside of YouTube and my journey to be a sports media professional and look at articles I write, listen to games I call, etc., go give me a follow on Twitter at TailgateNate29. I post a lot about my field work over there. If you are so interested, I would really appreciate a follow over on that platform. So again, I really appreciate it. But now, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let's dive on into this one in Stillwater. The Utes versus the Pokes. It's going to be a fun one here, isn't it? But again, this just simply might very well prove at the end of the week to be game of the week, because this one is a coin flip, and we're going to tell you all about why right now. But first, I got to tell you how we do preview predictions here on the channel. We go ahead and we go through keys to the game when each team possesses the football. So we'll first go through 3 keys to the game when Cam Rising, yes, Cam Rising is playing this week, and the Utes offense is on the field versus this Oklahoma State defense. And then we'll flip it. We'll take a look at the Oklahoma State offense versus the Utah defense. And at the end of the video, I'll give you my final thoughts, give you what I think is going to happen during the game, and of course, give you my final prediction for who I think is going to come out victorious in Stillwater. Let's begin by talking about this Utah offense. And after sitting out most of the second half there against Baylor and the entire game against Utah State, we kind of heard a lot of things about Cam Rising and didn't really know when he was going to be back to play. Reports are out now that he is expected to see game time action against the Oklahoma State Cowboys, and that means Cam Rising is back. And so will Utah's offensive efficiency, which took a little bit of a dip this past week against Utah State. Now, not much. I'm going to give credit where credit is due, because you take a look at that pass game against Utah State. Yes, a rivalry game, I know. And even though there were some struggles there for the Utah Utes, I do have to give Isaac Wilson credit where credit is due. He was 20 of 33, 239 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick. Yeah, the QBR does not look that great, but overall, Isaac Wilson managed himself a really good game and was able to pull this Utah team to win. Now, if Cam Rising, somehow the hand isn't feeling well, because again, you heard a lot of things about his hand and heard that he probably has tetanus or some other things going on there with that cut, Isaac Wilson's going to be the guy to back up Cam Rising here. And again, even if you have to throw him in here, if Cam Rising just isn't himself, I would still feel, again, not as confident if Cam Rising was that quarterback, but I would still feel pretty darn confident in Isaac Wilson's ability to get these done. But again, throughout this video, I'm going to act like Cam Rising is playing. Those are the reports that are out right now. So that's how I am going to perceive this Utah offense. And when Cam Rising is playing, I mean, this Utah offense is very, very efficient. We've seen it throughout his entire Utah career. Again, 346 yards and 7 touchdowns this season. Guys, he's only thrown 29 passes, already has 7 passing touchdowns, and he's missed a game. He's missed the game. That's just how impressive of a player Cam Rising is. They really, really leaned on Micah Bernard this past week against Utah State in that backfield. He was able to run really well. On the season, that's 274 yards, a touchdown on 41 carries. For those of you math nerds out there, myself included, that's around 6.7 yards per carry. Mike Mitchell, as a freshman, has run really well, 26 carries, 116 yards, and a touchdown for him. You got other guys like Stanley and Vincent that are sitting back there as well. And again, we know Cam Rising, not really one to do this often, but if he has to, he's shown he can get outside of the pocket and run. This passing attack can be pretty dangerous. And again, welcome back Brant Kuithe. He's been playing really well. Stanley out of the backfield, especially with that 79-yard touchdown, is leading the team in receiving. But guys like Kuithe, Parks, Singer, Zipperer, they got a lot of really good weapons out there that are going to challenge this Oklahoma State defense that a lot of Cowboy fans wanted to improve entering this season. And well, it might have gotten worse. At least statistically, I think it actually has gotten better. Oklahoma State, you played a really tough Arkansas team that looks like they're going to have a really good offense, and Taylon Green is leading the Hogs to do some very, very impressive things offensively so far this season. But Oklahoma State, you look at what they did in their last performance against Tulsa, they really were able to shut the Golden Hurricane down. For the most part, I mean, let's be honest with ourselves, that was probably a 45-0 win. 10 points ended up coming there in the last 6 minutes, the last 6-7 minutes, something like that, for the Tulsa Golden Hurricane. Still, though, they did get 352 yards of total offense. So even though this Cowboy defense kept the Golden Hurricane off the scoreboard, they still had 19 first downs. They still had 352 yards of total offense. I think they averaged somewhere in the ballpark of 5 yards per play. Oklahoma State's defense has got to get things turned around because, again, when you face an efficient offense, and especially when someone like Cam Rising is back and at the helm of this Utah offense, it's just gonna work with so much efficiency. It's going to control the pace of play, and it is going to wear this Oklahoma State defense out. Again, it hasn't really fared out too well in limiting opponents driving down the field, but you take a look at those bottom two categories there, I should say the second and third to last categories in sacks and turnovers forced. I mean, they've got 7 sacks on the year. The Utah offensive line as a whole has had their fair share of struggles so far this season. They forced 5 turnovers. You see Utah's given the ball away 3 times here, and I want to say they gave the ball over twice in that game against Utah State, but I am going to fact check that because I might be thinking about a completely different game. Okay, yes, they only gave up the ball once there in that game. I was flip-flopping at Utah State. Gave up the ball twice there in that game. But so be it my point, right? Oklahoma State's going to be able to get pressure. They're going to be able to force turnovers, but they need that, right? The defense, it needs to pressure Cam Rising. They got to make him test out that hand because especially if it's not at 100%, that could spell trouble for Utah. We've seen that story with Utah and Cam Rising before, and they need to create some turnovers. But like I said, Utah controls the pace of play so well. Oklahoma State's defense has been on the field more so than their offense has this season. That's something that has to change, especially against a Utah team that can wear you down offensively. When you flip it over, I mean, you know Utah's defense can wear you out too, right? I mean, they got a lot of very good players, but albeit there are some really key injuries in this Utah secondary. Now, why does that matter? Well, I'll tell you why it matters here in just a little bit. So put a pin in that thought. We'll come back to it here. There's a sticky note right back here that says Utah secondary. We'll get back to that. First, I want to talk about Oklahoma State's offense, and I specifically want to talk about Ollie Gordon. Ollie Gordon was the leading rusher throughout the entire nation last season, and I mean, you just take a look at his stat sheet right now. He hasn't really gotten going as well as he did last year, right? He's carried the ball 62 times. This is obviously an offense that still trusts Ollie Gordon, trusts his ability to carry the football, and he has 4 rushing touchdowns, but only 216 yards in those 62 carries. And again, for those of you math nerds out there, that's only 3.5 yards per carry. That's not something that we have seen. I guess it's not something that we saw out of Ollie Gordon pretty much at all last season. That's something that definitely is going to have to be a little bit of a script flip here if Oklahoma State is going to want to win this game. Because if you just for a moment go back and look at those stats that were on the previous screen, especially with Cam Rising coming back, if this Utah offense is going to work with efficiency and put together drive after drive after drive, and even if they don't end in touchdowns, they just get points after points after points, and Ollie Gordon doesn't get going, that very much so is going to be able to limit what you do offensively. But now let's go ahead and talk about this Oklahoma State passing attack, because it has been a whole lot better this season with teams really focusing on Ollie Gordon this year, obviously seeing what he did last year, knowing how big of a threat he can be. Then again, being able to focus on Ollie Gordon has given this Oklahoma State passing attack some life, and it has given it some room to really open up here. And Alan Bowman has really found himself and found his passing rhythm. He's thrown a couple picks this year. Those are the only 2 turnovers. Not too concerned about those. I mean, against this Utah defense, yes, but for the future, I mean, no, not really. 967 yards. 8 touchdowns, 2 interceptions through 3 games. For Alan Bowman so far this season, he has been sensational, and he has really improved from where we saw him last year. And the offensive line as a whole, I mean, it's just been fantastic. Again, not the reason really where you can blame Ollie Gordon not really picking up his pace and not having his best couple games quite yet, because the offensive line has been fantastic, especially in pass protection. They haven't allowed a sack so far this season, but okay, you remember the sticky note that's back there? We're going to take the pin out of it. We're going to read it. And even though Utah's defense has been sensational, the Utah defensive backfield has some injuries into it. And obviously, Utah's going to be a team, much like any team that's played Oklahoma State so far this season. They are going to key most of their assets to containing Ollie Gordon and limiting his impact. Because if you all of a sudden say, hey, guys, Ollie's not having his best game, all right, let's focus on Alan Bowman and this passing attack, commit some more resources to the pass than to the run. That is exactly the recipe that Ollie Gordon wants for him to have a breakout game. And Kyle Whittingham has been in the business for a long time, guys. He knows that Ollie Gordon is an exceptional player, and he's going to do everything he can to try to contain him, right? So that is something that I don't think is going to happen here. I don't think Utah State, why they might shell out a little bit more to the pass than they would the run. In some cases, they're still going to defend the run really well, and they have all season. But with the injuries to some of these guys in the defensive backfield, it just gives Alan Bowman more of a chance to show off his arm and to show us that he has improved and to show that this Oklahoma State passing attack, again, you can focus on Ollie Gordon. We know what good of a player he is, but this Oklahoma State passing attack is something to fear too. That's what Oklahoma State will be looking to prove. But if the Utes defensive backs can keep up, and these injuries don't really seem to be limiting them, and they're going to be able to contain Alan Bowman in the passing attack as much as they can, I think he's still going to hit a couple shots here in this game. Then obviously shell everything out to the defensive front. Let your physicality take over, because even though this Oklahoma State offensive front has been fantastic, I think when you pair these 2 teams together, I think the physicality level, and it's just off the style that Utah has played forever, might lean slightly to the Utes' favor from this defensive front. They forced 4 turnovers and 10 sacks so far this season. Battle in the trenches will be a key thing to watch too, again, as Utah looks to slow down Ollie Gordon. But guys, we got Kyle Whittingham, we got Gundy. I cannot think of a better coaching matchup here in this game, and it is going to be absolutely sensational. Here is where you can watch this game, and right now, maybe a little surprisingly to some of you out there, Utah, as of recording this video, is the slight favorite here in this game. And honestly, I literally went back and forth and back and forth. I had so much trouble trying to predict who I was going to win this game, and with Cam Rising back, as soon as I saw that news, I was thinking, okay, so Utah is going to win this game, right? But then I just kept thinking, what if that hand is not 100%? And look, I think Cam Rising and this Utah team are still going to win the Big 12 this year. They're still my pick to win the conference, but there's going to be something about this environment in Stillwater, and there is just something to where every time you count out Mike Gundy and his guys, they deliver, and they deliver in a big way. I think for the most part, Utah's going to have the lead here, and it'll seem like to Utes fans late in the game that maybe they have this one in the bag. But a late possession from Oklahoma, a breakout game from Ollie Gordon, and Alan Bowman doing his thing with the injuries to this Utah secondary, I think is going to lead the Cowboys to a very, very, very narrow win over the Utah Utes. I think the offense gets it done. The defense steps up, plays better than they have these past couple of games, or better than they have really all season. And I got the Cowboys pulling this one out on their home field in Stillwater. But man, is this one going to be so much fun. Please tune into this one. I know I'm going to. And please let me know what you think about it in the comment section down below. Remember to play hard but tailgate hard, and we'll have 3 more videos out for you tomorrow. Goodbye.